But my question is very simple. Do we often narrow the issue of corruption and limit it to the political class, or perhaps we have to broaden it and look? When I was in opposition 2013 to 2016, I often had businessmen sharing documents with me. But later on in life, when I understood how dark Accra was.
You know, corruption is one of the most biggest problem or the biggest entity which is functioning as the problem that we are having in this world. You know, the main reason a man putting it up right here in Ghana and they say, and answer man specific say in Ghana, because corruption is everywhere. Bribery and corruption, they work hand in hand, and then they are everywhere. You know, say bribe no say come out with the other culture say connection up. By name say what they are you say a corruption and I say a bribe. I don't know if you get it. Because of say who kwaya de and say pick him out. I say, oh boy, one and as a connection me na me koye na fool. But say what the say koyo before there and you to can say corruption. This is the world that we are living in. A world which is biased, and then a world that fighting corruption is the biggest problem that we are going to face. You know, corruption is like a cartel. Bibia bi wom empanyinfo atitiro obia bi ehubom. To the extent say kasa ye cheche nkrofo who are involved in corruption and then bribery. Abusia Captain Smart kan hwe ba be fa wo ma me kra otifi. Wa hwe ba be chia chemokraman ni na aka ho. When Abu Afenyo Markins the nsem ya kotuja, emra je se wonya ho ekopie mu awo the 5th annual corruption conference na say ehonum na say wode nsem bi a ekoso etuja na this statement je se wona Abu Afenyo Markins ye no. Indeed, I salute that man, because whatever the man said, the man did not speak for like himself alone. The man he went he went general for everybody. And this time around, the man was specific. Wanyan NDC, wanyan NPP. No. Wanyan say menkwa mi hunti ana me bekawe. No. But the man spoke for Ghanaians. The man spoke for the politicians, which is both sides. The man spoke on how to fight corruption. Honorable Afenyo Markins in some kind of now let me tell you, this man, like in same year to the one mawaka. The question that the man is going to ask being found to check. But this man, low key, the man is full of wisdom. Because in some man I can I'm a young who say indeed he is a man unimnyansa paye. Forget about so cars will be bobo. Forget about so to me be said dear Jan pay. No, forget about it. But that man, so yeah, then say yeah, and ask what cars and minutes and yansa woman. I was see a Mary who said that man wakanya answer. Honorable Afenyo Markins, and no copy muno adding send me to just say corruption as an entity, no. That people are tagging the political class alone. What's it? No. Stop tagging the political class alone. Stop tagging the business class, but rather it is a cartel that we must all fight for. Because of say, if you start to attack the politicians alone, there are some things that people are doing now. Like it is more than whatever we see. Also, one as an MP, sometimes a chief, a pastor, or whoever will come to him say, Honorable, after somebody come on in the area, no, or qua man, because the person is expecting something from you. Why? Because you are a politician. Why? Because you are a member of parliament. Why? Because you are a president or a minister. So nipa ne kono se wo bio, se wo ni bio. The person is expecting something. And then I'm not sure say obi akwa MP one mama sika MP de be man less than 500 cedis. No. Asema wana Abu Afenyo Markins de tu jana busia nya hu ne team. And then the man also went ahead. Eka say sometimes we talk about the lands in the cantonment, we talk about the looting. But have you forgotten the foreigners? Because there are some foreigners, they are having some lands. Because after that days, oral team new kosuni na you who say foreigner be and as a foreign company. But meanwhile, these are the people they play a certain role in the corruption society. Yenti on about Afenyo Markins.
I've had the benefit of reading what my respected brother and senior at the bar, Kisi Jabe, has shared with you. And I would attempt to add my voice by way of review to some of the issues that he raised. Indeed, he was spot on the issues he raised, particularly the legal reforms, constitutional reforms of our body politics and the laws that allows us to punish for corruption. But my question is very simple. Do we often narrow the issue of corruption and limit it to the political class, or perhaps we have to broaden it and look at it as part of the general life of all of us as a people? When a government is elected into office, its core function is to do business. To do business with who? The citizens. When I was in opposition 2013 to 2016, I often had businessmen sharing documents with me. And they will encourage you to speak about it on radio, corruption. But later on in life, when I understood how dark Accra was, I realized that those who don't get their contract through are the ones who complain of corruption. But those who get theirs through, they go to church in white and thank God. I've also had the opportunity of seeing former legislators, former ministers of state. And believe me when I tell you that some of them, when you see them, you ask, was he really in public life? Was this not a man that we thought he was so rich? So what happened to his money? I'm not here to hold brief for any politician, but you know them in your neighborhood. Perhaps the very few politicians who are entrepreneurs, who have practiced their profession, are the ones that you see them surviving. But many politicians, contrary to the view that they are so corrupt, are very poor. Especially legislators. You can see them after office and you would wonder. I believe that we can act collective and be very fair to the issues. In my constituency, when a chief visits me, the chief is not interested in my salary. He expects that as he's come, he must not go empty-handed. A constituent visits me, a pastor visits me, he expects that I should do something. So perhaps the demands of the office may cause a politician to be finding out how to survive or how to look for resources to meet a certain purpose. As part of our culture, don't we make ourselves vulnerable for what we say corruption? Because our cultural lifestyle, how we relate to ourselves in itself, makes the leader very vulnerable. And in so saying, the leader then would have to find a way of meeting that expectation. And in the process, if you don't have it on your own, or in your quest to make somebody happy, you end up acting wrongly. And that is a fact. I therefore encourage discussions by civil society, all aimed at cracking the whip on the political class. I'm one politician who is of the view that if you leave us loose with power, we may leave the room with empty coffers. So if somebody knows that on the radio, somebody will be talking about his lifestyle, when he gets into office, he will be careful. I chaired Ghana Water Board. I tried some reforms. The reforms did not succeed. I saw Ghana Water sinking. The same public service machinery is used to fight good initiatives aimed at helping the system. And when it gets there, with the greatest respect, when a man does not have all the support, he often gives up. So it is not enough to talk about corruption, but we must look at a collective approach in how to deal with it. Because all of us, a lot of civil society organizations have their interests. For instance, let me take you through a practical situation. You have your source of funding. And that source of funding is involved in a problem somewhere. And this same source of funding is calling on you to intervene. Do you say because that source has sustained you all these years, you would stay back? But there may be an issue of corruption. So I see that sometimes the issue is more about people's interests than fighting the real canker. We cannot lay blame on one side. We have to be very collective and tackle it heads on. I've been hearing corruption against the business class, and I also realize that politicians, when we come into office, our focus is who did business with who. And in the process, even Ghanaian businesses that are doing well suffer. But you have foreign entities that have gotten the same contract or even more or bigger in quantum. But because it's a foreign entity, there's nothing like corruption. Can we also look at that? Is it also born out of envy? How come Kojo Mensah Enterprise got this huge business? But if it is a foreign owned, there's nothing wrong. So we talk about cantonment, looting. But if you go there, you see Turkish, you see Americans, you see British, you see foreign nationals mounting high-rise buildings. Is it that if you are a foreigner, there's nothing like a corruption tag? But if you are a Ghanaian, you would have to answer questions. So people then end up getting their own alter egos, hide behind them, and then find a way to say that, oh, it is an Indian business. Oh, if that is so, then OSP will not come after you because the owner is a foreigner. So, ladies and gentlemen gathered here in this room, I've heard Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh reviewing Kisi Ejapi in space. The laws are just not enough. It is our collective will, in my humble view. And in the process, as citizens, we must not ever give up. Because giving up would mean to lead us to a failed state. That cannot help us as a nation. Let us continue to crack the whip. Let us continue to be hard on the political class. But at the same time, other actors in that chain of corruption, Because if you leave the other actors and over-focus on the political class.
So that's Honorable Afenyo Markins, the minority leader for the Republic of Ghana. You know, in some Honorable Ditujano, some will agree with him, some will not agree with him. But me, fully, I do agree with Honorable Afenyo Markins. From head to toe, in some of the two Janano, because of say, I then a Ghana in Kwande, Debbie, I was say investigating because of say corruption, and I said bribery because. But up to now, yenya broni bi and as a foreigner be investigating how the person was able to do this, how the person was able to do that. To say Ghana need the any boy corruption. But say ya kwasi broni there any usuru. Look at the world that we are in. I have no BJ so can I subscribe. Afenyo we are sharing link in my friend. The next thing is you do or to leave a comment.
This is the BJ Show with Boatin Josant. Don't forget to subscribe.